Alright, let's talk a little bit about this build. The build name is called Macaroni in a Pot Wop. It is an Elementalist, and the skill we're using is Incinerate. So as you can see here, the defenses I have 63,000 armor, which equates to 90% physical damage reduction, 5.8k energy shield, um, energy. I have a almost 400 energy shield recharge regeneration per second. I am Chaos Inoculation, so I have max Chaos Res, max block, lots of good things going on here. Um, the Incinerate DPS is about 2.9 million DPS fully buffed. Let's talk about the gem links first. So I'm using Incinerate, and it's a channeling skill, fire skill. The longer you hold it, the more damage it does, and the bigger the area of effect. So this is the basic MTX. Um, it is linked to controlled destruction. We are not getting any crits, so it works just fine. Infused channeling gives us some defense while we're channeling, and some pretty good extra DPS. Inspiration support cuts down the mana cost of Incinerate, and hence why I don't need a mana flask, and more elemental damage per inspiration charge, and there you get 5 pretty fast. LA Focus, we're not worried about igniting or anything like that. I'm also using hypothermia support, and you're thinking, well, why are you using hypothermia if you can't chill them? Because I'm also using skitterbots. So I have skitterbots that are applying chill to a small area, so it's more useful on bosses rather than mapping. I'm also using discipline, grace. Let's see, determination. Those are some of the other auras I'm using. Um, and the reason why is because the reason why I use grace and determination is because the skin of the lords here gives me iron reflexes, and iron reflexes converts all evasion rating into armor, and that's why I have so much armor. Using Herald Vash, Stone Golem, um, Lightning Golem. The cast speed for the Lightning Golem as Elementalist, and when you stack Golem buffs, gives a lot of cast speed, and that equates to a lot more DPS. Chaos Golem for extra physical damage reduction, which I don't even really need. Even without it, I'm still at 90 physical damage reduction just from armor, basically. And Flame Golem for more damage. Um, and then Flame Dash with Arcane Surge, which is standard for a lot of casters. Thinking about switching to Dash because I do have enough decks to use Dash, and it might just be a better quality of life. I just like the feel of Dash better. Might need to resocket these gloves then. Using Infernal Cry. So, Infernal Cry is amazing for it's amazing for clear. So when you see the juicy explosions, it's Infernal Cry. So what I usually do first is Flame Dash into the middle of a pack, hit Infernal Cry, and then start blasting off Incinerate, and that's how you get those big juicy explosions. Second Wind support, which gives me 2 uses of Infernal Cry and an extra use of a Flame Dash. And um, I think in my last video I said one thing that would have really helped this build is to be able to get a Skin of the Lords with Call to Arms, which makes the Warcry is instant. The downside is then you can't stack up 2 uses of the Warcry. So use it once and you have to wait for it to recharge. Even though it's instant and you can do it uninterrupted, and you can even put it on your left click and use it while walking. The downside again, you only get 1 use. So I'd rather have 2 uses. Um, and so I decided to not use the Skin of the Lords with um, Call to Arms. And instead, we're using second wind support, so we have 2 charges. In my boots, I am blocking all the time, so I use Reckoning, which is an attack, and it triggers every time I block. And to that, I have Hex Touch support, which causes that attack to curse enemies with flammability and elemental weakness. So let's talk about the gear. Skin of the Lords again. You can't put any gems in here that are not corrupted. So if you want to build something like this, you should probably level with Skin of the Loyal. Find a you can find a armor with the same colors. Now with Skin of the Lords and Skin of the Loyal, you can't change those colors, so you have to purchase those colors as is, or turn in div cards to get them, or fight Chayula until you get them. Um, and this armor piece was about 5 exalts, which was a lot. Uh, but it's actually kind of cheap for an Iron Reflexes armor piece. Iron Reflexes is incredibly strong, and it's really far in the passive tree. It's all the way here in the bottom, which is nearly impossible for the witch to get. And so for a witch to get Iron Reflexes, it's a big quality of life thing. Um, and the Skin of the Lords comes with it, you can get any keystone on Skin Lords randomly, and so it's really hard to get an Iron Reflexes one because there's so many keystones on the passive tree. Um, and the more rare the colors on the armor, the more expensive they're going to be. So an armor with multiple reds are going to be more expensive because you can make an attack build, or you can make a minion build that uses attacks like Primal Crush Claw. It will use multiple reds. Carrion Golem will use multiple reds. Zombies will use multiple reds. And so, yeah, I found this one. Ideally, what would be better is if I had 2 reds, 4 blues, so that instead of hypothermia, I could put Empower 4, and the DPS would be even higher. And then I wouldn't need to use Skitterbots to chill. Although, with Skitterbots, you get chill and shock. Um, let's talk about the shield first. This shield Aegis Aurora is amazing. The big thing here, it replenishes energy shield by 2% of armor when you block. So, if I have 63,000 armor every time I block, which is a lot because I have max block, it says 75, 72. That'll change when I cast a spell, 75, 75. So I have max block, so every time I block, I recover about 1200 energy shield as well. So let's say I get hit by a big hit, and then I get I block a big hit, I recover. Let's say then I get hit by multiple small hits, I recover 1200 per hit. Um, it's really makes this build quite tanky. Let's talk about the Cerberus Limb Scepter. This, when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's pretty high spell damage, and that's kind of pointless. Yeah, spell damage helps, but it's not like a big multiplier. The big thing here are all those other um, mods on here, which makes this weapon an incredibly powerful defense weapon. First of all, you get the spell damage leached as life if you have a shield with 30% block chance, which our shield does. Now, I'm not leeching life, and I'm leeching energy shield instead because I picked up Vaal Reave on the skill tree, which makes you leech energy shield instead of life. Now, when this build is played on the Inquisitor, it's usually a life and energy shield um, build, and so Inquisitors don't pick up Chaos Inoculation or Vaal Reave, and so this Life Leech is a really powerful thing for them because they are leeching life and energy shield. Since I went at Chaos Inoculation, I use Vaal Reave, and it just gives me a bunch of energy shield leech. The other things on here, the max energy shield per 5 armor on equipped shield, that gives me a lot more energy shield because my shield has about 1,000 armor. And then the 5 are 20 evasion per 5 maximum energy shield on the equipped shield. The shield has about 200 energy shield, and so that gives you quite a bit of evasion, which is all converted to armor. And so really, this weapon is a defensive weapon that just makes you really tanky. Helmet, I'm using Crown of the Inward Eye. Oh, I think I forgot to talk about the links on the helmet. Um, it's just quality of life kind of helmet. And it gives a decent amount of energy shield. It also has those transfiguration mods, which are actually like notables on the passive tree. Um, uh, and so each of them gives you damage based on the percentage of increase of life, energy shield, or mana. And since we have a decent increase of energy shield on passive tree per se, we have an increase um, in spell damage as well. Just happened to buy one with Herald of Ash, reduced mana reservation for about 40 chaos. Wasn't too bad. I forgot to talk about the links in the helmet. Cast when damage taken. Linked to Wave of Conviction, and this causes exposure. And then that's linked to Combustion to give even more negative fire resistance. And then I also have Molten Shell. Uh, this is only like a level 11 Molten Shell, level 10 Molten Shell. Um, and that procs whenever I take some damage. And then when it procs, it gives me a shield of 10,000 armor because it says the buff can take equal to 20% of your armor up to maximum of 10,000. And since I have 60,000 armor, it gives me the shield of 10,000 for 3 seconds, which is a lot. And then the Valmont shell gives me even more, up to 30,000. So usually before I hit a Valmolten shell, if I'm in a sticky situation, I'll hit my flasks because when I hit my flasks, my armor goes up to 173,000. Then I'll hit Valmolten shell, and gives me that extra defense for 9 seconds. Um, for the belt, I'm using Coward's Legacy. This makes it so you are cursed with vulnerability, but if you are cursed with vulnerability, you also count as low life. And that's important because we are picking up this node here, the Keystone, Pain Attunement, 30% more spell damage when you are low life. And so that makes us low life all the time. Um, the Really the only other way you pick up Pain Attunement is if you're using something like Chevrons, where you reserve a bunch of life, which makes you low life, and so that the chaos damage doesn't go past your energy shield. But but with this, you count as low life when you're cursed with vulnerability, and you're like, why would you want to curse yourself with vulnerability? Because then you take more physical damage. Well, the way we negate that is actually through our Watcher's Eye. Um, and the Watcher's Eye we have is um, unaffected by vulnerability when affected by determination. We are using determination aura. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of interactions happening here. Um, and unaffected is different than can't be cursed. Let's say you have a flask that makes you immune to curse. Then it's going to take away vulnerability, and then you no longer have pain attunement. What the Watcher's Eye does is it makes it so you are still cursed for vulnerability, but it does nothing to you. But so then you still get the low life bonus from Coward's Chain or Coward's Legacy. The boots, I'm using the Stampede, and these give my movement speed. Well, these make it so that your movement speed is 100%, 50% of its base value. You can't move faster than 150%, which kind of sucks. So it makes this build feel actually quite slow. It's not a zoom zoom build, and so you can't move faster than that. But it gives your it makes your movement skills have a lot more cooldown to make up for it. And the reason why we're using these boots is because we are also using this cluster gem right here called Natural Affinity, which gives this keystone. Gain 2 grasping vines each second while stationary, 2% to deal double damage per grasping vine. So since we're stationary a lot because we're just sitting there channeling Incinerate, those vines are on us a lot. 1% less damage taken per vine. Up to 10 vines can grasp you, inflicting 8% less movement speed per vine, which is negated by the Stampede boots, and that's why we're using them. And the nice thing about the Stampede boots are they are also from the Blight League, and those special uniques from Blight League, you can anoint them. So we anointed it with Inexorable. I hope that's how you say it. I have 2 music degrees. I do not have, but I do not. I'm not a good writer. And so we get some endurance charges, regen per endurance charge, and extra armor while stationary. And we're stationary a lot. Let's talk about my rares real quick. I just got a gloves with a lot of energy shield. Um, ring with energy shield resistance. Ring with energy shield stats resistance, and went with unset rings so that I'm not socket starved. And then I have this really cool talisman that dropped. Um, that dropped. I believe it was in heist, and it has really good stats, really good resistances, and maximum energy shield. It has the Golem Commander already anointed on there, and so I don't have to spend passive points to get up to it. It's right here. You're like, this is not that far, but that's 5 more passive points I'd have to spend. And then it has a socket on it, so you can't. If you want to replicate this build entirely, you can't really do it because this a, a talisman like this will be nearly impossible to get unless you um, you know craft them and then do the syndicate to try to turn your amulet into a talisman, a tier 1 talisman with the socket. Good luck. You're probably better off with an amulet with a +1 or a +2 to spell skills for more DPS. I'm at 2.9 million DPS. Um, I think if I had an amulet with +1 or +2, I'd be about 3.4, 3.5 million DPS. Um, but the DPS is plenty um, for now. I think the downside with the is that sometimes uh, without if like I'm fighting a really beefy rare, for example, and he's going after my golems and he's not hitting me, and it's so uh, I'm not gonna curse him unless he hits me, and I'm not going to inflict exposure on him unless he hits me. And so that's the downside of playing with golems, but is it, when you need to get hit. So then, yeah, I could switch over to maybe an amulet with more DPS, but this works for now. Um, yeah, so that's my gear. I'm just using for flasks. I'm using a series. I'm using silver flask with bleed removal. I should purchase a Cinder Swallow flask for more fire damage or more damage if when they're ignited. And then I would switch the bleed to the Stimnite flask because I don't really need freeze removal because I'm using golems and the golems are giving me immunity to elemental ailments. And so, anyway, so I'm using the Stimnite flask. It gives me 100% increased evasion rating. It's really why we're using it. It's Jade Flask, 3000 evasion rating, and this it says 72% increased armor. Um, and notice here on my Granite Flask, it's 3000 to armor, but 89% increased evasion. So when you stack those two together, it's a lot of armor because remember, all my armor is being converted to, all my evasion is being converted to armor. And again, with those three flasks, 173,000 armor. And again, the big thing is with this shield, you replenish energy shield by 2% of armor when you block. So that's why it's so tanky. Let's talk about a couple things in the tree. Using this careful planning, this build is dexterity starved because you have to use grace. And so, in order to use a level 20 grace, you have to have 155 dexterity. So I just got this careful planning with corrupted blood cannot be inflicted on you. I'm using an intuitive leap just to get a couple of these extra notables in this area. Block chance, mana, area of effect. Pick up a lot of the spell block nodes on the tree. Using the blue nightmare here, which all lightning resistance in the radius gives me extra block chance. So that's why I maxed spell block as well, and also glancing blows here, which doubles my block chance. And it says, yeah, you do take 65% of the damage from blocked hits, but remember, we also recover 1200 energy shield whenever we block without flasks. We pick up a lot of mana reservation nodes in the upper part of the tree. Elemental overload because we're not crit, so we just do that extra elemental damage. Um, Vaal Reave over here. Again, Pain Attunement for more spell damage because we count as low life while affected by a vulnerability. We got two curses going. Let's talk about my clusters real quick. I just got some spell clusters. The important thing here is this avoid practice caster to avoid interruptions from stun while casting. I got an arcane search one here. Um, just uh, some extra damage, leech, and cast speed. Now, my medium clusters are what's really special, which gives this build some really good interaction. My medium clusters are aura medium clusters, and the notables are sublime form, and I have two sublime forms, which makes the cost of grace reduced. I have two uncompromisings, which reduces the reservation of determination, and I have five stalwart commanders, which increases the aura effect of grace, determination, discipline. Uh, and the fifth one is actually on this small cluster here. So, again, the reason why I'm using, well, because I'm using all grace, determination, and discipline. But these got Stalwart Commander got nerfed this league. It used to be 30% increased aura effect, and now it's 20. It's still decent. I don't know if you can play something with if you can stack Stalwart Commander anymore. Maybe if you played like Scion and then you had maybe some voices instead of large clusters, and then you also picked up like a third cluster. You could stack a lot of Stalwart Commanders. Um, but I think the reason why this still works and I'm getting enough defense is actually because of this weapon right here. The extra energy shield I get and the extra armor I get from using this weapon in conjunction with this shield gives me that extra energy shield. Because I don't, if I don't, wasn't using this weapon, I think I'd have about under 5,000 energy shield and significantly less armor. So Yeah. Um. So yeah, that's the build. It's a lot. There's a lot of interactions. I didn't even talk about the Ascendancy yet. So I pick it up. Um. These golem notables here for extra golems. So we're stacking golems, and the more golems you have, the more damage you have. The more golems you have, the more they buff each other's buffs. And so with the 5 golems, they that's why the lightning golem, instead of what it says it gives you 9% cast speed. I believe I'm getting like 35% cast speed from the lightning golem instead. And then the stone golem says you have 105 regen, which really, it says here I have 346 regen, so it's a lot. Masterminded Discord, this is new to Elementalist. Extra exposure when you apply exposure, which we are doing the Wave of Conviction. And this Heart of Destruction is really kind of why I decided to make this build with Elementalist instead of Inquisitor. Um, 60% increased area of effect while you don't have convergence. As soon as you hit a boss, you have convergence and you lose that area of effect, but then you get 30% more elemental damage. Um, and so that extra area of effect is great for clearing maps because it affects both your Incinerate and the Infernal Cry explosions and the Herald of Ash explosions. And so it makes the clear a lot better. And then when you're fighting a unique boss or whatever, it switches to more elemental damage for at least 4 seconds when you hit them. 4 seconds off, 4 seconds on. Not bad. Um, yeah. Well, that's the build. I am level 93. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be playing this build. I don't play. Um, I work a full time job. I work about 10 hours um, of different work outside my job, and so I try to play as much as I can, but um, and try to create some guides in here, videos here and there because I like to play builds that are easy to play, and because I suck at this game because I don't get to play this game as much as I'd like to, so I create builds that can trivialize the end game and whatnot. Um, and so, uh, yeah, so I like to call it builds for dummies, and this is really what this build is. It's a build for a dummy. There are a lot of interactions going on, which is not for dummies, but if you understand how they work, um, then you can face tank just about anything. Just like you'll see in this serious fight that is coming up. So please enjoy the serious fight. Thank you for watching the video.